Hoenig graduated Shalhevet. He served in Tzahal. He fought and he defended Am Yisrael. And I want to invite him today, right now, to come up and share some stories as well.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm on the podium, sorry, let's see. I can't believe it's been a year. I really can't believe it's been a year. I'm going to remember October 7th exactly as it played out from my perspective for the rest of my life. I have no doubt about that. I had finished the army 3 months earlier, and I went traveling, got back to Israel on October 5th to start school. I was in Beit Shemesh, staying by my rabbi's house, and I was very jet lagged. So I was up since 4:30 in the morning. I was lying in bed, couldn't fall back asleep. I went into his Beit Midrash, was learning, and then at 6:30, I heard some booms, so I went outside. I heard all the rockets that were being shot down, and all the explosions, and I walked down and I saw my other rabbi, and we spoke for a second, and we knew, something bad was happening. The rest of the day I spent in the yeshiva, which is a Hesder yeshiva, which is where the boys, they learn and then go to the army. So I watched as the news came in. Everybody checked their phones. Everybody checked their phones and saw the videos. And I knew that I wasn't in the reserves anymore. So I didn't check my phone, but I went with my friends. And I loaded up magazines. I put them in my friend's vest. And he went off. And one by one the yeshiva emptied out. And nobody was there. And after Chag, I went and I checked my phone. And I saw a text. It was a text from my commander. He said, Binyamin, my friend from the army, the one on your left, Binyamin was fighting in Kfar Aza and he was shot and he was killed. And the rest of the text said, we're going into Gaza. Whoever wants to come, send me a text. So I did. I sent him a text, said, I'm going. But this was the moment that it had become real. You never think that somebody's going to actually die until they do. And then it shook my world, it shook everybody's world. And I was considered lucky that in the following week, I only went to one funeral a day. It wasn't until later in the war that I had to choose between going to 2 funerals at the same time. And it wasn't until about a month later that I ended up in Miluim in the reserves. And I want to tell you about my friends, Binyamin on the left and Gilad on the right. We drafted together, we did training together, we did guard duty, patrols, arrests, everything together. Binyamin was killed on October 7th, and Gilad was killed in Gaza about in May. And so the story of what happened on October 7th, as I was told by my best friend Gabriel, was that I was in Tzalchanim in the paratroopers in Matai B'Shnayim, and they were in the West Bank doing guard duty, and they obviously knew that something was wrong. So the head commander took his private car, which had 5 seats, and he took 4 of my friends, Binyamin and my best friend Gabriel, and 2 others, and they got in his sedan, not armored car, his sedan, and they drove down to Kfar Aza. And when they got to Kfar Aza, they didn't understand, nobody understood the situation. So they got out of their cars, they put their gear on, and they walked into Kfar Aza. They were walking in 2 lines, talking, joking, and then out of nowhere the shooting started, and one of the soldiers was hit. So they started fighting back, started shooting back, and my best friend Gabriel is a medic. So he went over to pull this guy behind cover. But the guy was too heavy with his gear, the gear weighs a lot, so he went to pull him behind cover. But he couldn't. So Binyamin, on the left, you could see he's holding a lot of guns. Very heavy. He was a really strong guy. Binyamin ran over to come help. And Binyamin went to go pull the guy behind cover, and he was shot. The story goes, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the story goes that Gabriel then turned to trying to save Binyamin, and in the end that other soldier was saved and lives today. And a random car pulled up and they put Binyamin in the car. They tried to put Binyamin in the car, and they said to the driver, "We need to go to the hospital." But the driver was mute. He couldn't speak, so he was doing like sign language. And Binyamin was a big guy, and so Gabriel went to pull him into the car, but it was too hard, so he took his gun off and went around to the other side and pulled him in. They went in the car and the driver drove off, but neither of them had their guns. And they went driving, and they got to the exit of Kfar Aza, and there were soldiers that stopped them and searched them and all that, and they took Binyamin and started trying to save him. It was only about 2 months later that Gabriel found out that the driver of that car was a terrorist, and he was trying to kidnap him back into Gaza. So by a miracle, they were stopped, and thank God Gabriel is doing well today. I mean, I can tell you about these people, I can tell you my stories about them, but if you look where on the picture on the right of Gilad, it says Emor Me'at Ve'aseh Harbeh. And like Rabbi Stein mentioned, there's a trend, I guess you could say, to make stickers of soldiers that have fallen. And I have a bunch of those stickers here with me today. And it just happened to be that for both Binyamin and Gilad, the sentence that was picked was Emor Me'at Ve'aseh Harbeh, which is from Pirkei Avot, and it means say a little and do a lot. Binyamin didn't say anything. He didn't complain. He knew exactly what was going to happen, and he volunteered to go down to Kfar Aza, and he volunteered to pull that soldier behind cover and save his life. And you can see in this picture, I always remember, he never said anything. He was so quiet. And one time, we picked up his bag, probably weighed 100 pounds, at least 100 pounds. And he never complained. He had the heaviest bag. He would always volunteer to carry stuff. He was the embodiment of Emor Me'at Ve'aseh Harbeh. And Gilad was too. Gilad, I was super close with. He was also a medic and worked to save people. and they were both just amazing, amazing people. But now I want to speak directly to you guys. Hopefully 3 times a day we say the Shmona Esrei, the Amidah, and in it there's the prayer of Ritzeh. And in Ritzeh it says, Ve'ishei Yisrael utfilatam me'era be'ahava tekabel beratzon, which means Ve'ishei Yisrael, in the fires of Israel, which is usually translated as the fire offerings, the fire korbanot, Ve'ishei Yisrael utfilatam, and their prayers, me'era be'ahava tekabel beratzon, speedily, quickly, and with love, accepted. And I was thinking about what to say, and I remember learning from, I believe it was Rav Rimon, that we think that Ritzeh is speaking about returning the korbanot to the Beit HaMikdash. But when it speaks about Ve'ishei Yisrael, it's speaking about all the people that fell protecting Am Yisrael and fell L'Shem Shamayim in God's name. And what he says essentially is that Ve'ishei Yisrael, like I said, could mean the korbanot, but it's also these giborim, these heroes who are now in the highest levels of Shamayim. And those Ishei Yisrael, those fires of Israel, replaced the korbanot. And now comes your turn, because I don't want this to continue. You don't want this to continue. But something has to replace the Ishei Yisrael. Something has to replace the fires of Israel. And I remember from my time in Shalhevet, Rabbi Bloch would always say, light your soul on fire. Now is the time. Now we're in the Aseret Yemei Teshuvah. We're in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And this, Kabbalistically, is like a time when the world is still being created. And it's really on you guys, on each and every person, to light your soul on fire and to think about, every time I've heard one of the soldiers come up and speak, they say, you need to do whatever it is, turn and say something nice to the person next to you. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you to light your soul on fire. Do whatever you have to do to take your connection with every single Jew in the world, every non-Jew in the world, and especially with Hashem, to the highest level. We know that the people that die, the Shem Shamayim, go directly to the highest level of Shamayim. And we need something to replace them so that this doesn't need to keep happening. So first we had the Korbanot, the Ishei Yisrael, now we have the Giborei Yisrael, the heroes of Israel who went in fire, and now it's on you to live through the fire and to live a fiery Judaism, one that's passionate and one that is loving and one that constantly uplifts like a fire. It's always going up and it's never ending. The Ner Tamid, which would hang, is always burning and it's always going upwards. So my bracha to you guys is that you should really be able to find this Ner Tamid, to light your souls on fire, to really continue and understand what you're doing here at Shalhevet, to understand what you can do for Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. And it's customary to say, may their memory be a blessing. And I will say that, Yu Zichram Baruch, but I also want to say, may their memory be an inspiration to us all.